Well, Chuck Schumer of New York is now in line for the minority leader position, being vacated by Harry Reid.
I'm not going to run for re-election. My friend Senator McConnell, don't be too elated. I'm going to be here for 22 months, and you know what I'm going to be doing? The same thing I've done since I first came to the Senate.
Yep, the same thing. Things like this.
We're not going to bow to Tea Party anarchists who deny the mere fact that Obamacare is the law. The Asian population is so productive. I don't think you're smarter than anybody else, but you've convinced a lot of us you are. One problem I've had today is keeping my wrongs straight. Today is a big day in America. Only 36,000 people lost their jobs today, which is really good.
Joining me now for more hits from Harry Reid, senior editor of The Federalist, and one of my favorite writers, personally, Mollie Hemingway. Mollie, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks for coming on.
Great to be here.
So, you know, the left is always wringing its hands about the lack of civility in politics. Harry Reid, he's been at the leading edge of the lack of civility over many years. This is the first example from May of 2005, calling President Bush a loser. He said, quote, "The man's father is a wonderful human being. I think this guy is a loser." He later apologized. Typical of Reid?
Oh, you know, it's so funny. Democrats and Harry Reid absolutely freak out anytime Republicans offer even the slightest criticism of President Obama. And Harry Reid went apoplectic with rage when Senator Tom Cotton expressed concern about President Obama's handling of Iranian negotiations. But these are people who routinely bashed President Bush and even undermined his foreign policy while he was abroad. This is a guy who called President Bush a liar. He called President Bush's mother, former First Lady Barbara Bush, a word that rhymes with witch, if you know what I'm saying. And he even boasted that he called President Bush's dog fat.
He called the dog fat. The dog wasn't fat, actually. I remember the dog well. Now, ISIS is bad, but according to Harry Reid, probably not quite as bad as the Koch brothers. Watch this.
What is un-American is when shadowy billionaires pour unlimited money into our democracy to rig the system to benefit themselves and the wealthiest 1%.
Un-American. That's McCarthy-type stuff.
Yeah, what they've said about the Koch brothers is amazing. If he cares so much about money and democracy, then why was his Senate Majority PAC the top spending super PAC headed into last year's midterm elections? And more than that, Harry Reid used to be a very poor man, and he became wealthy by having these magical real estate deals and investments that turned him into a millionaire many times over. It's absolutely unconscionable to go after private businessmen who are engaged in the political process when you're using your time in government to become wealthy and literally take an apartment in the Ritz-Carlton here in D.C. I mean, that's awful.
It's unbelievable. How did he get rich? Well, let's do a separate segment on that someday. Now, in the last presidential race, right at the height of it, August 2012, he heard somewhere that Mitt Romney hadn't paid any taxes for 10 years and went public with this. Turned out not to be true, but just to remind you, here it is.
The word's out that he hasn't paid any taxes for 10 years. Let him prove that he has paid taxes, because he hasn't.
I mean, like, really?
He never provided a single iota of evidence to substantiate even making a claim like this. And we actually know from the Romney's tax returns that they paid millions of dollars in taxes leading up to the presidential run and gave millions more to charity. And I would tell you how that compares with Harry Reid's tax payments and charity giving, but he keeps that information secret.
He does. Well, I, for one, would like to know. Mollie Hemingway, to our viewers, if you don't read Mollie Hemingway online, you ought to. Really one of the smartest people on the internet. Thanks a lot for joining us this morning, Mollie.